In April 1945, as the Western Allies pushed deeper into Germany, a lone German soldier emerged from the fog, riding calmly past the wreckage of destroyed tanks. Hidden behind the turret of his Sherman, War Daddy suddenly leapt forward and stabbed the man repeatedly, killing him at close range. He cut the horse loose and watched it run free before climbing back inside the tank. War Daddy was a battle-hardened first sergeant in the 2nd Armored Division. He commanded an E-8 Sherman tank known as Fury, along with his crew, Bible, Travis, and Gordo. They had survived together since North Africa, but Red was killed when a mechanical fault struck while Travis was repairing the tank. As they rolled forward, War Daddy climbed out to scan the battlefield, then returned inside and warned the crew that an artillery strike was about to hit. Moments later, an explosion rocked the tank. Travis completed the repair and Fury pushed forward as artillery continued to crash around them. They returned to camp where wounded soldiers covered the ground and medics worked non-stop. War Daddy climbed down as stunned soldiers realized Fury had made it back alive. Red's body was removed from the tank, and War Daddy explained what happened to command. He later gathered his crew and acknowledged their loss, but reminded them the war was not finished, then walked away. Out of sight, War Daddy finally broke down as the weight of Red's death crushed him. His moment was interrupted when a young soldier named Norman approached, reporting that he had been assigned as Fury's new assistant driver. War Daddy questioned him and learned Norman had only been in the army for 8 weeks. He pointed to the tank and told him that was home now, warning him not to get close to anyone. Moments later, Norman introduced himself to the crew, immediately overwhelmed by their bluntness. Gordo searched Norman's bag and took his book, mocking him for not smoking. Norman awkwardly reclaimed it and admitted he had never seen the inside of a tank before, having served as a clerk, typist before being pulled off and reassigned as an assistant driver. Travis ordered Norman to clean inside the tank. Inside Fury, Norman discovered Red's severed remains and froze in horror. He tried to continue cleaning, but the reality became too much. Outside, officers discussed how 5 tanks had gone out and only 1 had returned. Norman finally stumbled out of the tank and vomited. As he recovered, a truck carrying piles of fallen soldiers rolled past him while he stood trembling from what he had just witnessed. Nearby, American troops escorted a captured German soldier, causing War Daddy to explode with rage. He demanded to know why the man was still alive and lunged at him before being pulled away by his crew. Turning to Norman, War Daddy told him that killing was no longer optional. He handed him a gun and ordered the crew to teach him how to use it. Later, command briefed the tank crews that their unit would split off on a dangerous flank guard mission, linking up with Baker Company to secure a nearby town before meeting Captain Wagoner, with Sergeant Collier acting as platoon sergeant. 5 tanks rolled out together. Norman stood in his hatch as they entered a road packed with refugees, exhausted civilians fleeing the collapsing Reich. Gordo explained the gun to Norman, telling him how tracers worked and how short bursts were more effective. Norman hesitated as he saw fear in the faces around him. Along the road, Norman noticed a young woman among the refugees, but Gordo made crude remarks about her, leading Norman to defend her, which earned him ridicule from the rest of the crew. Moments later, Norman spotted movement in the bushes ahead. Norman placed his hand on the trigger, but hesitated to shoot. A Panzerfaust fired from the roadside and slammed into Lieutenant Parker's tank. War Daddy instantly opened fire, cutting down the young attackers. Flames engulfed the tank as its driver crawled out. In unbearable agony, he ended his own life with a single shot. War Daddy climbed out of his hatch and moved ahead, checking the bodies to make sure every attacker was dead. When he returned, he called for Norman and demanded to know why he had not fired. Norman apologized, saying they were only kids. War Daddy pointed toward the burning wreck of the destroyed tank and forced Norman to look at the result of that hesitation. Over the radio, War Daddy reported that he was now leading the column. They pushed forward and reached Baker Company. An infantry sergeant asked for Lieutenant Parker, and War Daddy informed him that Parker was dead and that he was now in command. The sergeant ordered him to park the tank, explaining that Captain Wagoner wanted to see him. War Daddy followed the sergeant and met Wagoner, who immediately asked how many tanks he had left. War Daddy said 4. Wagoner replied that he had requested 10. He explained that one of his platoons was pinned down in a sugar beet field by heavy machine gun fire. His own tanks had already been sent in and destroyed. The Germans had a dug-in 75mm gun, and he needed War Daddy to eliminate it. These were not children or old men, but a hardened Wehrmacht unit. Wagoner told him to do whatever he had to do and hit them hard. War Daddy returned to Fury and briefed his crew. The 4 tanks rolled toward the sugar beet field. Using binoculars, War Daddy scanned the terrain and ordered all infantry to get down. The tanks advanced as infantry formed up behind them, using the armored hulls as moving cover. a German observer watched through binoculars from a concealed position. War Daddy ordered a right stick maneuver, warning that German troops were on the ground. Enemy fire erupted, cutting down soldiers who were not covered by the tanks. War Daddy ordered the crew to eliminate the machine gun, and during the chaos, Norman became distracted until Gordo yelled at him to stay on his sight. Bible fired and destroyed the cannon. Just as the firing paused, another German position opened up with suppressive fire, forcing the crew to return fire as the fight continued. Norman finally squeezed the trigger and began shooting into the field. Moments later, his ammunition ran out and he struggled to reload. As Fury moved forward, a German soldier burst from a foxhole and prepared to fire a Panzerfaust at the tank. Gordo screamed for Norman to shoot him, but Norman was still reloading, forcing Bible to react first and kill the soldier. Gordo erupted in anger, telling Norman to do what he had been told to do. The battlefield descended into chaos as American infantry surged forward and overwhelmed the remaining German positions. Gordo ordered Norman to fire at fallen German bodies, but Norman protested that they were already dead. Gordo snapped back that he should shoot anyway so they could never rise again. Overwhelmed and furious, Norman finally broke down, saying he could not do this anymore. Norman apologized, explaining that he had been trained as a typist, not to man a machine gun, and that he was doing his best. A terrified German corporal was dragged from a foxhole, surrounded by enraged American troops. War Daddy climbed out of the tank and yanked Norman from his hatch, forcing him to follow. The corporal held photographs of his wife and children, begging for mercy. War Daddy slapped the photos from his hands and dragged the man to his knees. War Daddy shoved a pistol into Norman's hand as soldiers closed in to watch. He told Norman that he would be useless to him if he could not kill the enemy and ordered him to shoot the German. Norman refused, saying it was wrong, and handed the pistol back. War Daddy struck him, shouting that the man had come there to kill him. Norman told him to kill him instead. Enraged, War Daddy grabbed Norman, jammed the pistol back into his hand, forced his finger onto the trigger, and fired. The German soldier collapsed. War Daddy kicked Norman aside and walked away. Norman sagged where he stood, shattered by what he had been forced to become. Norman sat quietly with the crew as Bible handed him a cup of tea. The men mocked him for his first kill, treating it like an initiation. War Daddy arrived and cut through the moment, telling them they were moving out. As they approached a nearby German town, they passed corpses hanging along the road. Each body had a sign tied around the neck, accusing them of cowardice for refusing to fight for Germany. The assault began with units splitting up, some moving south as the tanks advanced. Fury came to a halt, and War Daddy questioned a German civilian about enemy positions. But just before the man could speak, the German shot him, and American forces immediately came under fire. Bible fired a shell, demolishing the building and killing those inside. They pushed deeper into the town, but a hidden German soldier fired from beneath a collapsed structure, killing American infantry before the building was blown apart, and killing him as well. Another building was destroyed as resistance continued. 2 German soldiers emerged from the smoke, and this time Norman reacted instantly, cutting them down with his machine gun. In a moment, a German walked out from a building raising a flag and signaling that the German soldiers wanted to surrender. More German soldiers stumbled out of the dust with their hands raised, only for the Americans to notice that they were barely more than children. War Daddy ordered that the one carrying a weapon be taken away. Moments later, the German commander was executed, and American forces secured control of the town. War Daddy told Norman he wanted to show him something, and Norman followed him into a nearby building. Inside, they found a room filled with dead bureaucrat men. Empty liquor bottles littered the floor, while several of the men still held pistols. War Daddy explained that they had known the Americans were coming, so they drank heavily and ended their lives at dawn. Outside, War Daddy told Norman to keep following orders, and he would survive the war. Suddenly, War Daddy noticed movement in the window of an upper-floor apartment and immediately headed toward it. They entered the building and forced the door open. Inside was a young woman named Irma. War Daddy demanded to know if anyone else was there, but she insisted she was alone. War Daddy shoved her aside and searched the room. When he looked under the bed, another young woman was revealed. Irma tried to intervene, but Norman restrained her as War Daddy dragged Emma out, shoved her onto the couch, and ordered Norman to close the door. Irma pleaded with War Daddy, explaining that Emma was her cousin and that she had lied out of fear. He dropped his weapon and sat down. He told Irma to bring him hot water so he could shave, and ordered Norman to sit down and put his gun away. Norman sat stiffly beside Emma, the tension heavy between them. War Daddy opened his musette bag and carefully unwrapped 6 eggs. He pulled out a can of coffee and a can of bacon, rare treasures in wartime Germany, and handed them to Emma to prepare. Norman wandered to the piano and began to play. and Emma, overwhelmed by the sound, joined him and sang along. The moment ended when they noticed the burned scar running across War Daddy's back. War Daddy remarked that Emma was a clean girl and told Norman that if he did not take her into the bedroom, he would. Emma understood immediately and clung to Norman as they went inside together. War Daddy washed his face as Irma stepped out of the kitchen to intervene. But War Daddy brushed it off, saying they were young and still alive. He carefully shaved, scraping away dirt and stubble, while Irma watched in silence. Inside the bedroom, Norman gently read Emma's palm. What began as an awkward moment slowly turned intimate. The next morning, Norman sat quietly with War Daddy, and nothing needed to be said. Emma went to the kitchen and brought out coffee for them. Suddenly, the door burst open as Fury's crew stumbled in drunk. Gordo teased Norman, telling him it was time to act like a man and that there was a special girl waiting for him in the tank. The room fell silent when they noticed Emma sitting close beside Norman and understood what had happened. War Daddy immediately warned that anyone who laid a hand on the girl would lose their teeth. Terrified, Emma retreated to the kitchen with Irma as the tension in the room turned dangerous. Travis forced alcohol on Norman and continued bullying him. When Irma offered Travis a drink, he threw it directly at Norman. The tension escalated until War Daddy stepped in and restored order. Before eating, Bible led the men in prayer. While eating, Travis leaned toward Emma and mocked her, even licking food from her plate. War Daddy calmly switched plates with her and made it clear that no one would touch his meal. Travis pushed further, but War Daddy finally shut him down completely when his patience ran out. A company messenger arrived and informed War Daddy that the colonel wanted him immediately for a mission. Irma asked where he was going, and War Daddy replied that he was going to take the next town, then the next, until Germany quit. Emma ran to Norman and clung to him, but Travis grabbed Norman and dragged him away. Captain Wagoner briefed War Daddy that higher command wanted his armor guarding a key crossroads. War Daddy asked how many troops were involved, but Wagoner said enough to concern the colonel. War Daddy was ordered to road march to the crossroads, secure it, and not stop for anything. War Daddy studied the map, made notes, and accepted the mission. As they prepared to move out, German artillery suddenly struck the town. Explosions tore through the streets, forcing the crew to take cover. After the bombardment, Norman realized Emma's apartment had collapsed. He ran to the rubble and found her dead beneath the debris. He tried desperately to move the stones, but Gordo dragged him away. Norman fought him, but was forced to leave. 4 tanks rolled out of the town while Norman sat in silence, shattered. War Daddy pointed toward a burning city and told Norman that he had started killing Germans in Africa, then France, and now in Germany, and that before the war ended, many more people would die. Along the road, the column was ambushed and 1 tank was destroyed instantly. The remaining 3 tanks veered right and identified the attacker as a Tiger tank. They opened fire but could not penetrate its armor. The American tanks pulled back as the Tiger advanced, firing again without success. Moments later, Peterson's tank was destroyed. War Daddy ordered a maneuver to circle the enemy and gain an advantage, but Binkowski's tank was also destroyed, leaving only Fury. War Daddy ordered Fury to move behind the German tank, but a direct hit damaged Fury. As both tanks repositioned, Bible fired again and struck the Tiger, destroying it. German crew members crawled out of the wreck, but War Daddy shot them down while Norman killed the German captain. With no way to call for reinforcements, War Daddy chose to continue the mission alone. At the crossroads, Fury struck a landmine and became immobilized. War Daddy sent Norman and Gordo to search a nearby building, but it was empty. They returned and tried to repair the tank. War Daddy posted Norman as a lookout near a tree. While hiding in the bushes, Norman heard movement and went to investigate. He discovered a massive Waffen-SS battalion advancing and rushed back to warn the crew, estimating 300 to 400 soldiers. The crew discussed retreat, but War Daddy refused, saying Fury was his home and he would not abandon it. He ordered the others to leave, but Norman chose to stay. One by one, the rest of the crew stayed as well. They disguised Fury to look destroyed and prepared for a last stand. Inside the tank, Bible recited scripture while Norman was given the nickname Machine, marking his full acceptance by the crew. They shared a quiet moment together, knowing the danger ahead. When the Waffen-SS arrived, several soldiers approached the tank to inspect it. As a German opened the hatch, War Daddy shot him, revealing Fury's presence and starting the battle. Bible manned the main gun while Travis loaded ammunition. Norman fired from his position. Under War Daddy's orders and guidance, the crew killed large numbers of German soldiers. When War Daddy realized Germans were using a nearby building for cover, Bible destroyed it with a shell. As the fight intensified, the crew ran low on ammunition and switched to secondary weapons outside the tank while War Daddy covered them. He ran out of bullets and was shot in the arm. An enemy struck him with a shovel, but War Daddy fought back, killed him, and retreated into the tank. Bible treated his wound, while Norman continued firing. The German commander noticed the pause in fire and ordered a full assault. The first 2 Panzerfaust shots missed. The third struck the turret, killing Travis. With no time to mourn, the fight continued. Eventually, Fury ran out of ammunition. Bible left the tank to retrieve ammo from fallen soldiers, while Gordo threw grenades at advancing enemies. While trying to escape incoming fire, Gordo dropped a live grenade inside the tank and immediately shielded it with his body, sacrificing himself. Meanwhile, a German sniper had been watching them. The moment Bible stood up, he was shot and killed. War Daddy continued fighting until the sniper shot him multiple times. Wounded and bleeding, he retreated back inside the tank. German soldiers surrounded Fury and opened the hatch, but War Daddy shot them down. With no options left, the Germans dropped grenades into the tank. War Daddy ordered Norman to escape through the floor hatch. As Norman crawled beneath the tank, the grenades exploded and killed War Daddy. Soon after, German soldiers searched the area. A young Waffen SS soldier found Norman hiding under the tank but chose to spare his life and walked away. The next morning, Norman climbed back into Fury and covered War Daddy's body with his jacket. American infantry reinforcements arrived and found him alive among dozens of dead Waffen SS soldiers surrounding the tank. Medics lifted him onto an ambulance and told him he was a hero. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.